Hi, welcome back to Faith and Conviction, and I'm your host, Ray Harris. Want to welcome you to this week's Torah portion, and I think it's going to have a cool connection to us here. I know that it kind of talks about lepers and disease, but the way in which it connects, I think, is actually pretty neat, how we're going to connect Moses back over here to Messiah. Now, this week's Torah portion is Parashah, or portion 28, and it's Tzara'at. If I caught that right, and I probably messed up my Hebrew, but it's interesting. And we're dealing with a leper, is what it means in English, a person afflicted with Tzara'at. Now, this comes from the book of Vayikra, meaning he called in English, but we know the book is Leviticus. And we're dealing with Leviticus 14:1 through chapter 15, verse 33. Now, the key word this time is found down in chapter 14, verse 2, and it is the fourth word in the Hebrew text. The Strong's number on that Hebrew word is H6879, which is for the Hebrew word Tzara'at. Now, Brown Driver Briggs defines this as to be diseased of the skin, to be leprous. And I think you're going to find an interesting connection with the word leprous when we go look at the Greek Old Testament. So hang in here just a minute. Now, Esword has this key word found in the Old Testament about 20 different times. And the Esword King James Concordance says that the keyword is not in our Torah portion, but the tool is mistaken. So my point is, on this little portion, when you're using your tools to do your research, don't always assume your tools are making the correct statements. Those tools are derived by humans, and we make mistakes. It's not that we're trying to be infallible. It's just that we make mistakes because we are people. So make sure that you verify your tools are correct in order to do your studies. Now, when we look down here in Leviticus 14 verse 2, I want us to look at how King James translates this. This shall be the law of the leper. And it goes on to say, in the day of his cleansing he shall be brought unto the priest. Now remember that kind of idea about what the leper is to be done and what he's to do when we get over to the New Testament. But when we're looking at this, the complete Jewish Bible says, this is the law concerning the person afflicted with Tzara'at. So they're trying to use the Hebrew word here. On the day of his purification, he is to be brought to the Kohen. Kohen is a way of saying priest in Hebrew. Now the JPS has it this way. This shall be the ritual for a leper at the time he is to be cleansed, when it has to be reported to the priest. So this is a very interesting, different phraseology that each of these translations have. But the key word is for a person who has a disease of the skin, and when that disease is healed, they get brought to the priest. Now, I just want to use the first part of the Greek Old Testament, and it's this. Autos ha nomos to lepru. Now, lepru gives us the beginning of the word leprosy. We can see how it carries over into the English. Now, the Strong's number on that is G3015. So that connects over to the noun lepros in the Greek New Testament. Thayer says it means to be scaly, rough, and affected with a leprosy, which is what's called a transliterated word coming out of the Greek. So we get the English word leprosy and leprous from this Greek word lepru or lepros. So it's kind of interesting how this works. Now, the King James Concordance, which is in Esword that I use, says that lepru or lepros is found in the New Testament about 9 times. So I want to look at one specific passage because I think it's kind of interesting how this works out here. In Matthew 8, we're going to look at verse 2, 3, and 4. In verse 2 it says, behold, there came a leper. That's G3015. So one who was lepros, or lepru, with lepru, came to Jesus, worshipped, meaning bowed down before him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. In verse 3, Jesus put forth his hand, touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. Now, verse 4 is what I want us to see here. We're using the key words to go from the New Testament through the Greek Old Testament over here to Moses to see the Hebrew and the Greek and the English. But watch what Jesus does here. Jesus said unto the leper who was just cleansed, See, you tell no man, but go your way, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for the testimony unto them, meaning a priest. Look at what Jesus just did. Because we know that he was born under the law of Moses, and he was teaching while under the law of Moses. He maintains his teaching and his healing under the law of Moses. Yet this is a New Testament passage. So what we have is we have Jesus knowing the rules and regulations of Moses, heals, and then we have Jesus tell this leper, make sure you're right with the priest under the law of Moses. Go show yourself to them. This is the kind of cool thing that we get to see when we make a word connection, and we go from Moses to the Greek of the Old Testament over here to the Messiah, and we see what's going on. So why do we do these things? Because we need to see that English and Greek and Hebrew work together. They are not enemies. They are friends. I don't understand possibly why different people choose to hang on to one language, whether it be English or Greek or Hebrew, and try to say which one is superior to another. I don't see where they're superior, because God has allowed people to learn about the Messiah and know only English and have salvation by it. And then he used the Greek and he gave people the testimony of Messiah in Greek. And yet he first gave it in Hebrew, and then it came over into Aramaic. But these are cool things. These are important things. These are valuable things that help us understand why Jesus, the Messiah, is still working under Moses and doing the things which he should do. But yet we see the power of the language from Moses all the way over here into the New Testament with Messiah. These are cool, this is important, and it helps us with our faith. I hope it's been a blessing to you today. Until next time, continue to seek God, know Messiah, and find hope.